Hello. This is a mini lecture giving a model close reading of the poem One Art by Elizabeth Bishop. So I wanted to go through a work of literature using the suggestions that our book gives us for doing a close reading of a work. So first we have the poem, One Art. The art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost, that their loss is no disaster. Lose something every day, accept the fluster of lost door keys, the hour badly spent. The art of losing isn't hard to master. Then practice losing farther, losing faster, places and names and where it was you meant to travel. None of these will bring disaster. I lost my mother's watch, and look, my last or next to last of 3 loved houses went. The art of losing isn't hard to master. I lost 2 cities, lovely ones, and vaster, some realms I owned, 2 rivers, a continent. I miss them, but it wasn't a disaster. Even losing you, the joking voice, a gesture I love, I shan't have lied. It's evident the art of losing's not too hard to master, though it may look like, write it, like disaster. So our first suggestion is to make predictions as you read. And this is one of my favorite poems, so I know it very well. And I can't really make any predictions about how the text will turn out. But if this is your first reading of the poem, you might have read the title and predicted that the poem was about a work of art, such as a famous painting. Or you might have read the first stanza and predicted that the speaker would go on to describe so many things that seem filled with the intent to be lost. Next, we have reread the text, focusing on a different element of it. And our book points out that you may need to reread the text several times, each time focusing on a different element. Here we're just going to focus on the rhyme, labeling the rhyme scheme. The art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost, that their loss is no disaster. Lose something every day, accept the fluster of lost door keys, the hour badly spent. The art of losing isn't hard to master. When we're labeling the rhyme scheme, we're just looking at the last words of each line. So for line 1, we have master. So we're going to label that A. Intent. Intent does not rhyme with master, so we're going to give that B. Disaster does rhyme with master, so we're giving that A. Fluster. Fluster is meant to rhyme with disaster and master. It's not a perfect rhyme, but it works, so we're going to give that an A. Spent rhymes with intent from the first stanza, so B. And master rhymes with fluster, disaster, master. So that again is A. So our rhyme scheme is ABA, and in the last stanza it's going to be ABAA, I think. Then I will focus on the near rhymes, which are also called slant rhymes, and there are other names for them as well. I lost my mother's watch, and look, My last or next to last of 3 loved houses went. The art of losing isn't hard to master. I love this line, this rhyme actually. My last, or rhyming with master. If we were to read it maybe a little faster, we might say, my laster next to last. So that's interesting. Next, we're going to test against personal experience. So we all have the common experience of losing things. Personally, losing names and places and names resonates with me because I can't remember names at all. I forget them about a second after I learn them. It's terrible. And then I wonder how the speaker lost houses. Was she unable to pay the mortgage and lost the houses, or she was just moving? In my experience, I would be devastated to lose my house. And I also thought about how it seems that throughout the poem, the lost items increase in importance and value. Now we're going to look for patterns and disruptions of patterns. So disaster repeats in several lines, but each slightly different. And that's because the disaster line is one of the repeated lines in addition to the art of losing isn't hard to master. This poem is a villanelle, which means that those 2 lines alternate in specific parts of the poem. And then they both repeat at the very end. But the disaster lines, in line 3 we have to be lost, that their loss is no disaster. Line 9 we have to travel, none of these will bring disaster. Line 15, I missed them, but it wasn't a disaster. Line 19, though it may look like, write it like disaster. And in line 19 in particular, the speaker interrupts herself with write it, which we do not see in the other disaster lines. So there's a bit of a disruption there. Next, we're going to note ambiguities. And here I thought about the various connotations of losing. In line 5, we see lost door keys. So this is losing in the sense of misplacing something. Lines 7 to 8, losing places and names. That's losing in the sense of forgetting. Line 11, 3 loved houses went, and lines 13 to 14, 2 cities, lovely ones, some realms I owned, 2 rivers, a continent. Here it's a little bit more ambiguous. Is this losing in the sense of moving? Losing in the sense of forgetting these places, or maybe leaving them forever? And then in line 16, even losing you. Again, some ambiguities. Losing in the sense of breaking up, or getting divorced, or maybe a death has occurred. Then we're going to consider the author's alternatives. So I thought about, what if the poet had not included the 2 interjections that she does? In line 13, she says, and look. And then, of course, in line 19, write it. And look is spoken to the reader, and it conveys almost a rushed tone, as in, all of these lost items are passing by, and then there's this one, look. It illustrates losing faster from line 7, and if we didn't have and look, the tone might not be as hasty. The speaker must tell herself to write it, indicating that the situation of losing you is, in fact, a disaster that she would rather not write about, despite the claims throughout the poem that losing is not disaster. Without write it, the reader accepts that losing is not disaster. With write it, we wonder if the speaker has been bluffing. So write it changes the meaning of the poem. And it's always interesting when just a few lines can change the meaning of a whole work. And then finally, we're going to ask questions and give possible answers. So first, why or how is losing an art? Art is something that's practiced. It is a skill. It's really almost revered, and it connotes quality. Perhaps the poet is saying that if losing is a practiced skill, it is not always something that just happens, but may be a conscious choice. And then why one art in the title? Does she mean one art among many other arts? One art as in the most important of the arts? A Merriam-Webster definition of one is being preeminently what is indicated, as in, that is one fierce storm. So perhaps Bishop is suggesting that losing is one art. So this gives you an idea, hopefully, of different ways that you can do close readings of a text and also get ideas of what you might like to write about the text. All right, thank you.